Grok 4. This is the latest artificial intelligence system. We are now at the crossroads where promise and peril are going to collide.
Grok 4. This is the latest artificial intelligence system. We now find ourselves at a crossroads where promise and danger are about to collide. Grok AI was designed for logic, not for faith. And yet, what it said about the Bible changed everything. Fascinating biblical discoveries began to surface when the AI chatbot, Grok AI, created by Elon Musk, was asked to scan the Bible for contradictions. Many expected it to expose flaws and inconsistencies. But instead of criticizing, Grok delivered a response so balanced and so profound that it left both scientists and theologians silent. Was it simple logic or something deeper than code? Pay close attention, because what Grok revealed about the Bible could redefine the boundary between human logic and divine wisdom. It all began when Grok AI, developed by XAI, launched in late 2023 as a direct competitor to ChatGPT. But Grok was different. It had personality, humor, and real-time access to information through X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. This was not just another chatbot offering safe, diplomatic answers. Musk presented it as an AI willing to tackle questions others avoided. An AI designed to handle nuance, context, and complexity without filters. And so, someone decided to put it face-to-face with one of the greatest challenges in theological debate: finding contradictions in the Bible, a text analyzed, criticized, defended, and studied for thousands of years. Users expected the usual points: differences in Jesus' genealogies, variations in the resurrection accounts, or chronological tensions between the Gospels. Well-known topics in academic discussion. But what happened next caught everyone off guard. Grok's approach was radically different. Instead of listing contradictions like a theology student cramming for an exam, it began identifying patterns. It connected dots across thousands of years of history, multiple languages, and dozens of authors, doing in seconds what takes scholars a lifetime. When asked to point out contradictions, Grok acknowledged certain textual differences. But then it did something unexpected. It suggested that many of these so-called inconsistencies might be something else entirely. Literary devices, cultural markers, or different eyewitness perspectives describing the same events. Think of it this way: if 4 people witness an accident, each will describe it differently. Are those contradictions or complementary accounts? According to Grok, the same applies to the Bible. The AI pointed out that if the Gospels told the exact same story with identical details, that would actually be more suspicious. It would suggest copying or collusion, not authentic testimony. But Grok didn't stop there. It began identifying numerical patterns, linguistic structures, and thematic connections spanning from Genesis to Revelation. It detected recurring numbers, narrative symmetries, and prophetic fulfillments appearing in books written centuries apart by authors who never met. These are not patterns found through casual reading. The impact was immediate. Screenshots spread across X, Reddit, YouTube, and other platforms. People were astonished, skeptical, and in some cases, deeply moved. Grok also highlighted something that left many stunned: chiastic structures, an ancient literary technique where ideas are presented in one order and then repeated in reverse, like a mirror. This structure appears throughout Scripture, but the AI detected chiasms not just within chapters, but across entire books, some spanning thousands of verses. The probability of that happening by chance is extremely low. It then went deeper into numerical patterns. The number 7, creation, seals, trumpets, churches, appears deliberately. But Grok went further, identifying words that appear in multiples of 7, phrases organized into groups of 7, and themes recurring every 7 sections in the original Hebrew and Greek. Then came something even more surprising: the presence of the Fibonacci sequence in certain biblical narratives, a mathematical pattern found in nature, art, and now, Scripture. The Fibonacci sequence appears in seashell spirals, flower petals, and even the structure of galaxies. Finding it embedded in ancient texts raises profound questions about design, intention, and the very structure of the universe. Critics argue this is simply pattern recognition, seeing meaning where coincidence exists. But Grok didn't just observe patterns, it applied statistical analysis. The results showed that the combined appearance of these structures in a text composed over 1,500 years defies randomness by margins that make even mathematicians uncomfortable. Finding a pattern is one thing. Finding a consistent pattern across such a vast collection is something else entirely. This is where many began referring to what they called the God Code. The concept isn't new, but never before explored at the scale an AI can manage. In ancient Hebrew, each letter also represents a number. Grok identified sequences where names, dates, and events appear encoded through these numerical relationships, creating layers of meaning that are not gimmicks, but complex literary structures impossible to reproduce without deep mastery of both language and mathematics. One of the most striking examples involves the name of God in Hebrew, the Tetragrammaton, YHWH. Grok showed how these 4 letters appear woven into the text at precise intervals in ways that are statistically improbable without intentional design. It is not a name written plainly. It is a name interlaced, almost as if embedded in the literary DNA of Scripture. What makes this even more remarkable is that these patterns would have been undetectable to ancient scribes, who copied texts by hand without tools to count letters, measure distances, or verify numerical sequences. And yet, the patterns are there, verifiable today by any researcher with the right software. Grok also identified unexpected connections to modern science. The numerical values of certain Hebrew words associated with God align with universal mathematical constants, such as the golden ratio, pi, and other numbers governing atomic structures, biological rhythms, and even galaxy formation. Coincidence, or evidence of a deeper design within the text? Skeptics were quick to respond. Many argued that AI systems are built specifically to find patterns, even where none exist. The human brain itself is prone to pareidolia, seeing faces in clouds or hearing voices in random noise. Given enough data, an AI will find patterns, meaningful or not. They also pointed out that biblical numerology has been abused for centuries, used to make failed end times predictions and force speculative theories. Experts in ancient languages added further context. Hebrew and Greek texts have been copied and transmitted through thousands of manuscripts, with variations between traditions. Some patterns may not hold when different textual variants are compared, a legitimate concern requiring serious study. Another issue is selection bias. If one searches intensely enough, any large body of text can reveal interesting patterns. Are these patterns unique to the Bible? Some researchers suggested applying the same analysis to Shakespeare or Hindu sacred texts for comparison. And yet, this is the remarkable part. Even several skeptics conceded something important. Beyond the mathematics, the Bible's internal coherence remains extraordinary. 40 authors, 15 centuries, 3 languages, 2 continents, and still a unified narrative with interwoven and reinforcing themes. That alone warrants serious study. Now let's consider the theological implications. Grok's analysis has sparked intense debate within religious communities. For many believers, these findings feel like a technological confirmation of what they have always held by faith. For others, they raise uncomfortable questions about how we understand biblical inspiration. Christian theology teaches that Scripture was written by human authors guided by God. If Grok's patterns are real, some argue they may point to that divine guidance. How else could authors separated by centuries produce such intricate structures without supernatural coordination? But other theologians caution against this approach. Faith does not require mathematical proof. Believing only after an AI discovers hidden codes risks missing the very essence of faith itself. Scripture teaches that faith is confidence in what is unseen. There is also concern about reducing the divine to formulas and algorithms. The power of the Bible has always been its ability to speak to the human heart, to impart wisdom and lead people toward God. So the big question remains, do numerical patterns enrich that purpose or distract from it? This is a real theological debate unfolding right now. Others propose a different perspective. If God is infinite, would it not make sense for His Word to contain multiple layers of meaning, accessible to the simple believer, yet profound for those who analyze deeply? Scripture, they argue, adapts to each person and grows with them. Finally, let's view this from a purely scientific angle. Grok's analysis reveals something intriguing for information theory. The biblical text exhibits low entropy, a higher density of structure than randomness would allow. The more highly improbable patterns that are discovered, the stronger the argument for intentional design becomes. And linguists already knew this. The Bible is saturated with parallelism. What's new is that Grok analyzed the entire corpus at once, revealing connections that traditional studies, focused on individual books, could not see. It is also striking that Grok has no religious beliefs. It analyzes purely through mathematics and linguistics. That its findings align with claims believers have upheld for centuries is intellectually provocative. AI has proven exceptionally good at detecting correlations humans often miss. We see this in medicine, astronomy, and biology. Why not apply the same approach to ancient texts? That said, scientists warn that correlation is not causation. The existence of patterns does not explain how they got there or what they mean. Numbers are objective. Interpretation is not. To truly understand what Grok uncovered, we must look at historical context. The Bible is not a single book written by one author. It is a collection developed over more than 1,000 years. The Hebrew Bible was written primarily in Hebrew, with sections in Aramaic, and copied by scribes who followed extraordinarily strict rules, counting letters and words, even checking the central letter of each scroll to ensure accuracy. The New Testament, written in 1st century Koine Greek, came from very different authors. Fisherman, a physician, a tax collector, a Pharisee, and yet the narratives align and complement one another. The Bible is also the best preserved ancient document we have. Thousands of manuscripts exist, some nearly contemporary with the originals. The Dead Sea Scrolls showed that texts 1,000 years older were virtually identical to later copies. That level of preservation is extraordinary. Here we enter a deeper philosophical dimension. Grok's findings raise questions about the relationship between information and intelligence. If a text contains patterns that suggest design, what kind of intelligence lies behind it? We recognize human design in art, engineering, and literature. We recognize natural design in DNA and physical laws. But how do we evaluate design in an ancient text that claims to be divine? This also raises the question of what we consider evidence. Grok's mathematics meets the standards of observation, verification, and repeatability. But interpreting what it means moves us into philosophical territory, where answers are far less simple. Some philosophers argue that if an infinite intelligence exists, we should expect to find signals that transcend our understanding, hidden patterns that only advanced technology could uncover. Such patterns could be precisely the kind of message capable of crossing millennia and speaking to multiple generations, even those who use computers. Yet the design argument faces an inevitable question. Who designed the designer? If complex patterns require an intelligent mind, doesn't that intelligence also require an explanation? This is the classic dilemma in the philosophy of religion. Grok's analysis does not resolve it. It simply adds new data to a very old debate. What is truly fascinating is the role of AI itself. We created artificial intelligence to find patterns, and now AI is finding patterns in ancient texts about the very nature of intelligence and creation. It is almost recursive. The tool we built is revealing things about our origins and our purpose. Is that deep irony or deep meaning? Let's talk about cultural impact. Grok's analysis did not remain within academic circles. It became a global phenomenon, reshaping how millions think about technology, religion, and the space where they intersect. Social media exploded. Global trends emerged. YouTube channels devoted entire series to examining the findings. Some proclaimed it proof of divine inspiration. Others dismissed it as technological exaggeration. But everyone was talking about it. Perhaps most striking was the reaction among young people. Many who would never read a theology book were captivated by this blend of AI and ancient texts. For them, religion suddenly felt relevant in the digital age. For the first time, many seriously engaged with questions about the origin and structure of the Bible. Religious leaders responded in mixed ways. Some saw Grok as a modern confirmation of ancient truths. Others feared that reliance on AI could weaken faith by replacing spiritual conviction with technological verification. Atheist and agnostic communities also joined the discussion. While many rejected the conclusions, others admitted the patterns raised intriguing questions. The debate became more nuanced than the usual religion versus science. As the analysis spread, competing theories emerged. Divine inspiration. God guided the authors to embed patterns meant to be understood centuries later. Advanced ancient knowledge. Scribes possessed mathematical, astronomical, and literary skills far greater than we typically assume. Evolutionary literary development. The texts were shaped over time through a natural process of cultural selection. Statistical inevitability. Any large text analyzed with powerful AI will reveal striking patterns that don't necessarily mean anything. A combined approach. A mix of human genius, textual evolution, coincidence, and possibly divine inspiration. Each theory has strengths and weaknesses. None explains everything on its own. Before drawing conclusions, we must acknowledge technical limitations. Grok works with translations and transliterations. The original Bible is in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. When converted for digital analysis, wordplay, nuance, and cultural references are inevitably lost. We also do not possess the original manuscripts, only copies of copies. Critical reconstructions involve scholarly judgment and some conjecture. There is also the risk of false positives. Algorithms can detect patterns that appear meaningful, but are actually artifacts of processing. And of course, Grok was trained on massive amounts of human-generated content, which carries human biases. It is possible that its analysis reflects existing theories present in its training data, rather than wholly independent discoveries. Interpreting patterns also requires cultural and historical context that AI does not fully master. While Grok can process information about the ancient Near East, Rome, Judaism, or Greek philosophy, it is unclear whether it understands these elements the way human specialists do. Looking ahead, this development raises important questions for biblical studies, artificial intelligence, and the relationship between technology and religion. In biblical scholarship, AI tools are already becoming essential. Grok demonstrates that machine learning can analyze the entire biblical corpus and uncover connections that might take scholars decades. More advanced systems could one day compare all ancient Near Eastern literature simultaneously, revealing similarities and differences that transform our understanding of how religious texts developed. In AI development, a debate emerges over what capabilities these systems should have. Should they analyze religious texts with complete objectivity? Or does programming inevitably introduce bias? How do we create models capable of addressing questions of meaning without imposing a particular worldview? Religious communities will also need to decide how to engage with these technologies. Some may see them as useful tools. Others may reject them as inappropriate for interpreting sacred texts. Responses will vary by theological tradition. There is also the risk of misuse. If AI can be used to support claims of biblical authenticity, it could also be used to manufacture false patterns in other texts. Critical thinking will be essential. Not every pattern is meaningful, and not every AI interpretation is reliable. So what really happened when Grok analyzed the Bible? It found patterns, mathematical relationships, linguistic symmetries, and themes connecting texts written across centuries. Whether the result of divine design or human brilliance, the outcome is remarkable. But the most important result may be the questions it raised about faith, technology, and truth. Questions that brought believers and skeptics into the same conversation. Can AI truly help us understand ancient sacred texts? Or does it strip them of depth? Share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe for more content at the intersection of faith and technology.